I'm Andrea Donsky, host of New Hope Network's Soapbox Series, and today I'm here with Jennifer Palmer, CEO of Gerber Finance. Welcome to the show, Jennifer.
Hi, Andrea. Thanks so much for having me.
Can you tell us a little bit about Gerber Finance?
Gerber is the leading finance partner for companies who are experiencing accelerated growth, but also care about having sustainable profit. We also have a social purpose. The Gerber Finance Foundation is focused on reducing childhood hunger for kids here in the US.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. What's the difference between Gerber Finance and banks and VCs?
VC is venture capital. That's a form of equity. Gerber Finance, we provide debt. The easiest way to think about debt versus equity is debt is like dating, equity is like marriage. So, dating, well, temporary, and if you're unhappy, easy to unwind. Equity, on the other hand, is meant to be long term. So, equity, if you want to get out of it, well, it's a little bit more complicated to get out of, and it can definitely be more expensive. But a lot of founders don't think about that. And so, Gerber works really well with VCs because any healthy balance sheet has a combination of both debt and equity on it.
It makes so much sense when you break down the numbers like that to consider whether or not you consider debt or VC. So thank you for sharing that. What categories are you looking to invest in at the moment?
Well, we are always following the trends in the natural product and the organic space. Immunity, well, that's very hot right now following the pandemic. So we're following companies that their ingredients have health benefits, for example, gut health. We recently put $5 million in new money into this category since the pandemic. And of course, Whole Foods has just recently named regenerative agriculture as its hottest trend of 2020. So we're following that. But in fact, we actually have been paying close attention to that for the past few years. Our client Numiti has been at the forefront of this movement long before others. And so through them, we've learned quite a bit about this space, and it's something we're continuing to follow. And finally, we are always looking at organic fruits and veggies. I'm not sure that you can consider this a trend, really. It seems to be the star of the category. We just put another $3 million into a fruit and vegetable company since the pandemic, too.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm not sure we can consider fruits and veggies as trends, but I will say that it is a good thing that it's considered a trend because that means it's continuing to nourish people as they're looking for their produce. So I love that. When should a company consider a lending partner like Gerber Finance?
I often go back to an example of real estate because everybody can really think about their business and think about real estate. And there's two analogies that really work well with it. And so I think about first time I bought a house and what I did with the money that I had. Well, I didn't go out and buy a house for cash. So think about it this way. If you have $300,000 of cash, you can either buy a home for $300,000 or you can scale. You can leverage that $300,000 and you can buy a home for up to $1.2 million. I did that with my first home. It wasn't $300,000 and it wasn't 1.2, but I took what I had and I got a mortgage with the rest. I used the equity and I leveraged. Much like in business, you can do the same thing. So you can either have a business that is doing $3 million of sales annually, or you can have a business that's doing $12 million of sales annually. Think about taking the equity on your balance sheet and scaling that so you can really scale your business.
By the way, I did that too with my first home. So I love that. What advice do you have for companies when it comes to financing?
So I like to think about it as far as what are you going to do to be prepared to meet with potential investors or debt providers? Whichever way you go, you want to make sure you are prepared. And so having good numbers in front of you is very important and knowing those numbers. It's not just about the actual numbers. Yes, everybody wants to see strong, healthy numbers, but it is also about the quality of your books and records. Having a strong controller or having a strong CFO, well, that's a make or break for any company, as is for when you're shopping for a new finance partner. So make sure your books and records are in order and make sure that you have a budget that makes sense going forward.
I agree with you absolutely when it comes to people that we're working with and people that you're going to invest in. We want to work with people that we like and that we believe in. Does Gerber Finance invest in startups?
Great question. So the beauty about Gerber Finance is we make our own rules and we often break our own rules too. We can be flexible. And so by rule of thumb, we typically only work with clients who are doing $2 million of revenue as a beginning stage. However, we have been known to work with clients who are just doing $700,000 in revenue a year, but we see that growth trajectory. We believe in the company, we believe in the product, we believe in the mission, and we believe in management. So that's probably been our lowest starting point. But again, for us, it's all about looking forward. So the past is not as important as the future. So we'll make and break our own rules as it makes sense.
You mentioned before gut health and immunity and how that has had an impact, a positive impact when it comes to investing in companies during the pandemic. How has financing overall been impacted by the pandemic?
Yeah, our portfolio has done quite well. Obviously, having a niche in the food and bev industry, as well as natural products, has helped us along the way. Although many of our clients have a strong footing in the food service side of the industry, and that really fell off a cliff, they did really well in pivoting and redeploying both assets and inventory into retail. So that was good for them. And of course, we followed trends, and there's been a lot of great trends throughout this crisis. But in general, financing definitely has changed during this, and it has changed for companies in this space. So traditional lenders like banks, well, they're tightening up, and it's been coming. It's been coming for a long time. So it's a very cyclical industry on the finance side of things. And we are in that part of the cycle where the banks just had to tighten up. They had done deals in the past few years that they probably shouldn't have done. And so you're starting to see the effects of that. They are quietly asking clients to leave, and they are definitely shying away from new deals. And so what that means is that there's less money available to companies who are growing really quickly. There's less money available to companies who need accommodations, who are more focused on top line than bottom line. And that's okay. It's less money available from traditional lenders, but there's lots of other parties out there like Gerber Finance who love companies who are growing very quickly, who are taking advantage of the crisis at hand and really thriving from it. So if you find yourself looking for debt and you're not having any luck at the institutional level with the big banks, well, keep looking, because there's a lot of interested parties out there. But it is time for the institutional lenders to tighten up. It's just a matter of course at this stage.
So I have one last question for you, Jennifer. How do you spark change?
Ooh, that's a hard question. But, I am the mom of four young girls, all under 10. And so I think having four young daughters puts quite a bit of pressure on myself. I have to do better for them. And so I'm a big believer that, okay, maybe you can't have it all, but you can certainly have all that's important to you. And so what's important to me is making sure that my team is comprised of people who want it all as well and who are striving for more. So I'm actively working to create a culture at Gerber Finance where working parents can have it all, that they can have that career. And when women decide that they want to have a baby, well, it's not a choice. Which one am I going to have, my career or my child? They can have it both. So that's very, very important to me. And if you are lucky enough to have all that you want, well, you also have to give back then too. So in addition to creating a strong, healthy culture at Gerber Finance for working parents, it's really important that that team also focus on giving back, as well as my family. And so again, we're focused on the Gerber Finance Foundation. We are very, very passionate about ending childhood insecurity in this country for children. And we have been so involved in it. And we've given thousands of meals to children who wouldn't have otherwise had access to food if it wasn't for the Gerber Finance Foundation. And while that reality is really sad, the impact that we've had is quite profound. And so now my girls, even as young as they are, they're quite committed to it as well. So what I think is really, really inspiring is that both my daughters and my team at Gerber Finance, well, they're all sparking change.
Well, I think that's absolutely incredible, and keep up the amazing work. Thank you so much for being on our show today.
Thanks so much for having me.
And thanks to all of you for watching. I'll see you next time on New Hope Network's Soapbox Series. Stay well.